this back. Okay. Hey, you're at the office today, right? Okay, so the court reporter's not here for this. We're on the third floor. Yep. Yeah, just go to the elevator towards the back of the building. And it's just coming. Seems like everything's from this kid 14 years old. His favorite player was Ted. So he went 250 miles on his own. He hitchhiked and took classes. Kid did. What did we go? It's the Fenway Park. It's an off game. So he doesn't know what to do. So he's sleeping in like a dorm or whatever at Fenway Park. And the police show up. So they take him down to the precinct. They're like, "We're not can't do that. What are you doing there?" I was not for Maine. I came to see Ted Williams play, and I didn't know they didn't have a game today. So Ted Williams stayed in a hotel. So a couple of the cops walked over to the hotel. And they like, "Can you tell Ted?" So Ted Williams brought me as his guest for the next day. And he said he's trying to track down the court reporter. They may be somewhere else. Okay. So if we end up starting, we're not trying to skip recessing into the official hearing and just try to work through some of the other stuff. And once they're set up, that we want to work. That's what it is. Now, when we do the official hearing portion, these are the materials for that relating to the challenge.
Okay. All right, you there, Mark? Yeah. Okay, can you put yourself on mute? Yep. Okay, thank you.
That's all. Spell run it. Like my couple run it. RUNNE. That's what I tried. My phone doesn't like it. What did that tell me? Okay, here we go. Morning. Good morning. That's no worries. You'll be docked 3 minutes. What's her hourly rate? I'll calculate it.
Well, yesterday I was sitting at home at 7 o'clock and somebody calls, it's like, "Where's your court reporter?"
He said, "I'm sitting in her house." Why? Why? What?
So I was only half an hour late for that.
Our plan is we're going to do your portion at the beginning of the meeting, and once we recess out of that official hearing, you don't have to.
We'll let you get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to swing by and watch a Wheel of Fortune? Yeah, we can have your meeting while I watch. I didn't know there was a conference room back there in the back corner. Yeah.
It's very well labeled.
That's the fancy. That's where all that. That's where all the officials with the $60 million. Surprised they even let you know where that's at. They blindfold. It's our version of the back.
Okay, Forrest, you ready?
I am, yes, but she may need a minute still.
Morning. Morning, Pat.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, at this time, we'll convene the Board of Elections meeting. And the executive session was held on Tuesday, January 21st, for the board to receive information about legal matters. I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 25th, 24 meeting.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, do we have any public comment on agenda items only at this time? Yes, Mr. Hall.
Charlie Hall, Western Borough Manager. I'm here relative to agenda item number 11.
You want to come up here, Charlie?
Sure. I
Yeah,
can do that.
this is being broadcasted on YouTube.
Okay. I'm here, as I said, on item number 11. I just want to make some comment. I'm going to read something and then, back, the primary of 2024 was the first time that Muncie first and second precincts co-located in the same facility. Prior to that conversion, there was a petition filed with the court to consolidate the districts in Muncie. Unfortunately, some folks misunderstood what was going on, came and gave testimony, and as a result of the testimony provided, the judge at that time chose not to allow the merging of the two districts. So there was some confusion as to what was going on. At that time, we had a council leadership that probably would not have allowed me to come and speak at that hearing. Therefore, I could not clarify what was going on. So as of the 2024 primary, the first and second precincts are co-located in the same facility, First United Methodist Church, 302 South Main Street, Muncie Township. Currently, there's not a large enough usable location in the borough for residents of Muncie to vote in the borough. That church is actually in Muncie Creek Township. Having the two precincts voting at the same place requires a large space as well as two sets of election poll workers and has caused some confusion for some as to where they were voting. Consolidating into one precinct would eliminate confusion, duplication, and the size requirement. Although a useful site in the borough would still not be available, plans to build a new borough facility could provide space in the borough to accommodate the single voting precinct. Further, given that the county is also under a DOJ order, as we are with our borough building, relative to voting accessibility, and having one, I believe having one consolidated precinct could open the door to successfully, so I'll throw this out now, even though this is the Board of Elections, to successfully talk with the county relative to funding assistance in the construction of our new borough facility. Obviously, the size would be smaller, need a smaller footprint if the wards are consolidated. The borough of Muncie does not use precincts for any reason or any purpose. Our council members are voted at large. Therefore, I believe that realizing that the board can go ahead and consolidate, can consolidate where precincts vote into one merging area. As I said, if not for misunderstanding, I believe that was in 2022. Not for some misunderstanding in 2022, I believe the court would have found in favor of the Board of Elections in consolidating into one. I'm here to encourage you to go ahead and carry through with that petition because I just think it's the right and proper thing to do for the residents of the borough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hall.
Are there any other public comments about agenda items before we?
Line, Matt?
No.
Okay, at this time, we'll recess the public Board of Elections meeting. We're going to convene an official Board of Elections hearing this time and to hear and decide a challenge filed against one voter registration reported by the Director of Elections.
Right, and I have some materials for you that I'll walk through in a minute at the other packet where it talks about a petition. but I just want to give you the overview first of what this is about. So if some of you will recall, a couple years ago, we resolved some issues through this process where we had a handful of voter registration records where the voter was registered at the street address of a post office. So it wasn't a PO box. If they had put a PO box, we wouldn't have let them register there. But they used the street address because they were folks who they moved around a lot and they thought it was convenient, to just have that as one place that they could use. And you can't register to vote that way. It has to be where you reside. Where do you lay your head at night? And so in those cases, and in some cases, we were able to figure out where do they actually reside. They did a change of address. In other cases, we never heard back from them. So we had to go through this process to challenge and ultimately direct that the records be canceled. In this case, it came to my attention recently that Staples also offers mailbox services. And so we did a look at that address, and we have this one record that is registered at the address for Staples, which is 1915 East 3rd Street. And there's a box number. And so we attempted to contact the voter and give them, all the chances to try to correct the record as to providing us a residential address in Lycoming County where we could update their registration. And then finally notifying them that, hey, there's going to be a challenge. There will be a hearing. This is the time, place. And if you have anything to present on your behalf, you can attend and be there. And that's what these papers document, among other things. So this first page, the petition, this is what I sent to them in November of 24. So this was sent to them along with a cover letter. It explained, what exactly the issue was, and we needed them to correct the record. I included a screen print of their voter registration record, indicating that address of 1915 East 3rd Street. That comes directly out of the voter registration system. Also provided, there's an aerial map here from the county's GIS, as well as Google Maps indicating the 1915 East 3rd Street, and that is in fact the Staples store. Even a printout from the Staples website showing that, this is, their street address. The cover letter I sent to them, with the petition explaining what they needed to do and what would happen if we didn't hear back. That was in October of 24. They received a notice along with that. All they needed to do was complete it, provide an updated address, and we could have adjusted, updated their voter registration.
For the record, that letter was sent on October 22nd, 2024.
That's correct. That was the initial communication. And then in late November of 24, November 26th was where we notified them that I had filed this challenge, provided a copy of the petition, the time, place of the hearing that would be conducted today. And then I did even send them a final communication in late December 23rd of 24, to again reiterate that their record had been challenged. Again, give them notification of the hearing, provided another copy of the petition. So we've made multiple efforts, and among those, I contacted Staples in person and verified with them that it is not possible for anyone to reside at that location. There's no property caretaker, there's no apartment or anything that somebody could, offhand be living at that we don't know about. And so, the matter before the board is, I can certainly forward this to the district attorney as a potential violation of the election code, but the board has the authority based on the information provided. It could vote to direct that I cancel this voter registration record based on what we know, which is that this is not a valid residential address in the county.
Okay.
So if you have any questions or you want to deliberate or anything.
Well, I was gonna say, don't we kind of have to cancel it because it's,
Well, it
I
would
would say illegal, but
it's my recommendation, yes. We proceeded similarly with voters who were, a handful of voters who were registered at post office addresses. No, they need to register where they live, because if they live somewhere else in the county, that's where they're paying taxes. That's what the offices that they should be voting on. Whereas if they're registered at Staples, they're all going to be voting on Loyalsock Township offices, because that's, where they're now associated with, even if they could be living in the city, they could be living in some outlying area, and they should be voting for those borough or township offices and not Loyalsock. That's where the problem comes.
You've heard nothing back from this individual.
No, we've had no communication at all.
Yeah, I will make the motion to cancel this voter record.
Can I have a
I'll
second?
second that.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
And I'll note for the record that we'll do as we did for these other folks, where we will notify the voter that the record has been canceled. We'll provide them with a voter registration form that they can use to re-register. And depending on what the information they provide, they may be re-registered in Lycoming County, or they may end up going to some other county. We just don't know, but they're going to be given that opportunity so that they can get back on the rolls.
First, do we have to make a motion to, or can you do this on your own at the advice of the Board of Elections to have this forwarded to the DA's office to be looked into?
It will be, yes. We have an obligation under the election code to forward any suspicious circumstance if we believe that there may be a violation of the election code. I wanted to wait and see what action the board took, and then I can forward that entire package over to the district.
I would recommend that you do that, just because we have not heard back from the individual
No,
of an explanation. So I think that the DA's office should look into it.
right. We'll absolutely do that.
Are you gentlemen in agreement?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm sure it's
Mr.
Yes, I would agree.
mostly innocent, but we should still follow
Yeah,
up.
we definitely have to follow up on it.
I have no other business relating to the official hearing, so at your convenience, you guys can recess that, resume the regular meeting, and we would be done with the court reporter so that she could be on her way to wherever you have to go next.
So before we do that real quick, just make sure that we reflect in the record that the petition and all the exhibits are accepted and may be appended to the actual record.
Right.
Okay.
There are no formal rules of evidence for a Board of Elections meeting or hearing. However, we still want to have the information that was introduced.
So motion that. Have a motion.
Yeah. What am I motion?
Motion to accept the petition and exhibits as presented.
I will make the motion to accept the petition and the exhibits as presented.
Second,
I'll second that.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. All right, well, thank you. That concludes the official Board of Elections hearing. And at this time, we'll reconvene the public Board of Elections meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your service today.
I mean, you can stay if you want.
Yeah, that's up to you. So the next item on the agenda, actually the next several items, are polling place changes. We have 5 of them that have kind of built up over the last few months. Most of these are due to the accessibility project, which is, we're making a lot of good progress on that, but we have a few more of them to do. The first polling place change, I actually gave you a list there in your packet that just summarizes all of them. But the first one is Bastrop Township. We've used the township building for a long time. There are some terrain issues there that are difficult to deal with. And so we're proposing to change that polling place to the Immaculate Conception Church, the parish hall toward the back of the property, which the judge of elections actually mentioned to me used to be a polling place way going back further in time. But that's located at 5931 Jacks Hollow Road.
Okay, motion to accept.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
He might still be on mute.
Are you still there, Commissioner Sorman?
Yep, can you hear me or not?
Now we can, yeah.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
The next proposed change is for Jackson Township. In this circumstance, we've used Frieden's Evangelical Church up there for about 10 years. In fact, I made that change myself. Their congregation is getting pretty small. We have some concerns the church is going to close, much like Church of Our Savior recently. There are some pretty significant accessibility issues on the interior, which is actually more challenging than exterior. Meanwhile, the township building has been making improvements. They actually have, it sounds a little mean, but they have a bathroom now, running water. This is a very old building, but they're putting work into it. And they're going to be doing some additional investment themselves for accessibility on the ramp and everything. So we're following that, working with the township on that. But the proposal is to change the polling place to the Jackson Township building at 824 Blockhouse Road.
Motion to accept.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hear me.
Yep. Thank you.
The next two polling changes are related to each other because, as I alluded to a few minutes ago, we have used Church of Our Savior as a polling place for Montoursville First Ward for a very long time. Regrettably, they announced just before the holidays that the church would be closing its doors. They held their last service or two around Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. So our ability to continue to use that as a polling place is at least in doubt, if not definitely. It's not going to happen if they close the doors and sell the property. So we had to look at alternatives in Montoursville Borough. And that's why we're actually looking at two changes. To replace First Ward, we're proposing to assign the Borough Building as the First Ward polling place because it has been the polling place for Third Ward for a long time. But the Borough Building is actually located in First Ward. So it makes more sense to have people voting in the ward they're at so that they don't have to go as far, whether they're driving or even if they're walking. Now they have maybe more of an ability to do that. And going along with that, because we're changing the Borough Building to First Ward to cover Church of Our Savior, we needed a new polling place for Third Ward. And that's the next item. Which would be to designate Faith United Methodist as the polling place for Third Ward. It's a fantastic facility. My son's Cub Scout pack meets there, so I got to see it for a long time before they knew that I was scouting them out. But they were very, very kind, very open to it. And we've got some ideas already about how things would work out. So it's two separate changes, but they're connected. So Montoursville Borough Ward 1 to change to the municipal building would be the first one.
Yeah, motion to accept.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And then Montoursville Borough Ward 3 to Faith United Methodist Church.
I'll make that motion too.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
The last polling place change is for Williamsport Ward 7. This is where we have been using the Williamsport Area Middle School. I think the first election we used that building was in November of 23. So we've used them for 3 elections now successfully. It's gone very well with the school district. We did recently, though, find an alternative in Newberry, the St. John's Newberry United Methodist Church, located at 2101 Newberry Street. I had reached out to them actually previously over the years, but they had some longstanding commitments in terms of the use of the space that made serving as a polling place incompatible with those operations. But the most recent opportunity when I reached out to them, I think it was in the fall last year, some of those arrangements had shifted so that they were actually now available, able to do that, and they were actually really interested in doing it. So this proposal would be to change Williamsport Ward 7 to St. John's Newberry United Methodist Church.
Okay, motion accept.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All fair side?
And just a note on all of these polling place changes, when these changes are made, we update the voter services website. It'll be reflected in legal advertising for the election. There will also be notices that go out to every house in every one of these affected precincts, wards, whatever that election district is. So everybody's going to get a notification about this change and know about it.
Okay, thank you.
The next item is a petition, proposal to refile a petition with the Court of Common Pleas to consolidate the two precincts in Muncie Borough. And I think, Mr. Hall, the borough manager, already stole a lot of my thunder on this one. I think he said most of what needed to be said. I'll reiterate just a little bit of it, which is that we identified this as an area where we could put the two precincts together because they were only divided at some point in the past for some reason relating to elections, because they don't elect any borough offices by precinct. It doesn't affect anything. For a long time, we had them in two different facilities. But when the Department of Justice issue began, where we had to make these polling places accessible, our location for the second precinct, which had been the Historical Society, had some real challenges associated with it. And so the Board of Elections, I should say, opted to exercise its authority under the election code to make a polling place change and locate both of those precincts together at First United Methodist Church, which had always been the polling place for First Precinct going back a pretty long ways. And it's working. They're co-located, so they are on, see, I can't say it either. They're on opposite ends. They're on opposite ends of a gymnasium. And we've certainly done that in other places and we've made it work. But we've done it in places where we have to keep them separated, either because they vote different ballots, so we can't just put them together. Or in some cases like old Lycoming, those precincts are so large you wouldn't want to put them together because the combined precinct would be too large. However, in the case of Muncie Borough, we already have 7 or 8 other precincts in the county that would be larger even than that combined precinct, which would be about 1,600 voters. We have 7 or 8 precincts larger than that are run very well, very successfully. And it would make things easier for everybody, because if you go there that day, they have the two halves coned off and they have to make sure people are in the right line, and that if they're in first precinct and they vote their ballot, they don't wander across the room to the second precinct scanner and try to put it in there, because that scanner won't take it. Then they get, confused about that. So it would simplify a lot operationally just to have everybody voting together. It would actually, as Mr. Hall mentioned, require less space to have one larger precinct than 2 smaller ones, where you're duplicating poll workers, equipment, administrative overhead on poll books and everything else. And so, we tried to do this once before in court, and I think the issues got a little confused, I think, as to polling place changes versus precinct consolidation. So the board made its decision about polling places. The issue before the court will be, do we keep them voting at opposite ends of the gym, or do we put them together as one? And in the future, that would make it easier to put voting back in the borough, because they wouldn't have to have as large of a space in whatever borough building they build, so that we could have everybody in the borough voting at a borough building. So the proposal here would be to refile this petition to see if the Court of Common Pleas will agree with us to consolidate these precincts.
So, my question is, it seems like a no-brainer. Is there any downside
Well,
other than change, and people are afraid of change?
there could be an element of that. The other tricky part is that because we're proposing to create a precinct that would have more than 1,200 registered voters, we have to show good cause to the court. That's why it's not just an automatic approval. Now, our belief, at least my belief, is that the accessibility issue has made this, more of a challenge because we had to put these two places together in one accessible facility. We couldn't keep them apart. And, that introduces operational challenges that really are unnecessary, given that we have larger precincts that we're able to run very well. Like Old Lycoming 1 is almost 2,000 people. Wolf is almost 2,000. Loyal Sock 7, Fairfield. These are much larger precincts that operate just fine with those numbers, especially since Act 77, because Act 77 introduced more mail balloting and that cut into in-person turnout. So that 1,200 number in the election code, I would argue, is probably a little outdated, given that you've got more people voting remotely rather than in person. Even if it's just 15 or 20%, that's cutting into your in-person, load that is appearing at these facilities.
Okay, I will make the motion to approve refiling the petition with the Court of Common Pleas to consolidate the precincts in Muncie Borough.
Second,
I'll second that.
all fair side?
Aye.
And the petition I gave you is, I think, pretty much in a final form. There will be some final tweaking, I think, with the solicitor. Notably, right before we file, we'll have to update whatever the most current voter registration numbers are that we provide to the court. But otherwise, that's the form of the petition. The last item I have is a proposal for a new pay schedule for poll workers. We have not visited poll worker compensation since after the last presidential election, after 2020. Our judges and inspectors have new terms that will start next year. So now is really the good time to look at it. And what I have at the last page in your packet is a proposal for a new pay schedule. This would be for a $30 increase for the poll workers across the board. So the judges would go from 200 to 230. The other poll workers would go 150 to 180. The half days would go 75 to 90. It would also be a small increase in the training from 40 to 50. I calculated that the additional annual cost to the county to affect this increase would be about $34,000 for both elections and all the trainings for 1 year. These are compensation expenses that are eligible expenditures under the election integrity grants, the Act 88 of 2022 grants. So this is, absolutely 100%. We can claim this under that grant and say this is an eligible expense. And this is our opportunity because of the new terms. So this proposal, if it was approved, it would become effective January 1st of next year. It would not affect this year's expenditures. It would begin next year.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the new pay schedule for poll workers.
Yeah, I will make the motion.
Second,
I will second.
all fair side? Aye. Now take effect January 1st, 2020.
Yes, and I'll put this on a commissioner's agenda as well, so it gets approved, with you wearing each hat. But I thank you very much for this because the poll workers always do. They're where the rubber meets the road on election day. So showing them we value their time and the effort and their nervous systems that they give over to us on election day, it's gratifying. That is everything I have.
Just want to make an additional comment. I want to thank Forrest for bringing this concern to us earlier. Petition to cancel the voter registration. When you see a red flag, you address it with the Board of Elections. In this case, it was a red flag. And we have our due diligence to follow through with it. In no way are we inferring that there's voter fraud in this case, but we have a responsibility to refer to the DA's office so that we can have an explanation of why this might have happened. And hopefully they'll be able to contact the individual and get an explanation of why this was dealt this, or why there was no response, and at the same time, why it was this address was utilized.
And I will be able to make a change in the voter registration system so that the address can't be used again to register someone, so it kind of closes the door on it. But these are things where counties are looking when they see things, they do something with it. We saw even before the presidential election last year, the stories that ran about, potentially fraudulent, suspicious voter registration forms that a couple counties received. But they saw something, they were on the ball, they saw it, they reported it to their DA. Those investigations started, they're ongoing, but counties know what to look for. And so when we find something, we absolutely pass it along. My philosophy on this is I never let anything die on my desk. If I have any kind of concern about something, it's going to go to the DA because my own authority is pretty limited. I don't have the legal or any other authority to make determinations about whether a violation of the election code occurred.
Yeah.
I have to pass it on to the DA. They have the expertise, the staff, the ability to make those decisions and go forward. So I just give them what I have, but I never let it stop at voter services or with the Board of Elections. We pass it along.
And we hope there's an explanation in this case too.
If I think all we have left is public comment, if there are any.
How long do I have?
Yeah.
Hold on. Go.
Yeah.
I would just like to thank the board. I believe that this council would allow me to take place and participate. But I do think
Thank you.
allowing that.
Yes. Thank you for being here and participating. And appreciate it. And your service to the borough. Thank you.
No comments online.
Okay, we have completed our agenda. So we will be hereby adjourned.
Okay.